So what's going on with Michael Porter Jr.? In his last 4 games, he has played less than 10 minutes 3 times. He had one 22-minute game against the Pistons, didn't play for 6, and then he had a nice run of getting consistent minutes over 20 a game. So this continues to be one of the more interesting things. I mean, I know I talked about the Nuggets about a week ago, but I just felt like doing another MPJ video because it just seemed like after that Pacers game in early January where he had 25 and he was huge, just creating shots out of nothing, and you just figured this dude has to play now. And you also figured after the Malik Beasley trade and the Wancho trade, granted they weren't getting a crazy amount of minutes for this Nuggets team, but it did shorten the rotation a bit. And you'd think, okay, this is how you get MPJ in there some more. It hasn't really happened, and you know, the on-off numbers in the last 15 games for Michael Porter Jr. would actually suggest the Nuggets are worse with him. That being said, I don't know if I really care about that when it comes to him because his minutes have been so inconsistent. I mean, again, his last 4 games, 3 were less than 10 minutes and 1 was 22 minutes. I feel like it's difficult to find reliable on-off numbers when MPJ's minutes are constantly in flux, you know what I mean? I mean, if he was playing at the same time of the game with the same teammates game in and game out, okay, then I think we could get something from that. But the way it is now, all I can really do is just look at the dude's point totals and just what I see when I watch the Nuggets. Now, I also see a guy who defensively is not always awesome, but to me, he can still be good enough, especially on this team that has, at least last season, played above themselves defensively, I would say, in terms of, like, I don't know, the collective is better than the individuals on that side of the floor. And then even then, you know, Jamal Murray's gotten better, Gary Harris is a good defender, Millsap is good, and Jokic has gotten better, so I just feel like it's enough to where you can put MPJ in there to where it wouldn't be that bad. I mean, could you not have him out there with like any of those dudes or Jeremy Grant or Torrey Craig and you can put him on whoever and it wouldn't hurt you? Like, I feel like you could do that against most teams, you know what I mean? And then from an offensive standpoint, I mean, you know, Will Barton, he's consistent, but he's consistently a 14 points a game guy, which, you know, that's solid, but it's not exactly great. Gary Harris's offense has not been good. And that's one of the weirder things, because 2 years ago it seems like he could have kept going as an offensive player. And it just seems like there's a way to get MPJ in here without too much trouble. I mean, yeah, maybe somebody would have to lose some minutes, but this is your pathway to being a great team, you know, is Michael Porter Jr. getting the room and the opportunity to really become the player that we think he can be. Now, this isn't me saying, and this is something I brought up in that video from a week ago, this is not me saying that I think he's the answer this season to them winning the title or not. Like, I don't really think he's going to come in and average like high teens or low 20s in the playoffs, but it's about getting him those big game reps now, you know what I mean? Because we've seen it with a number of guys. I mean, hell, the Celtics were riding Jason Tatum in his rookie season in the playoffs. Speaking of them, I think Jalen playing in high-stakes playoff games in his rookie season was big. And the reason I bring those two up is because I think Michael Porter Jr. is in a similar situation. You know, talented player who can play on and off the ball on a very good team that is not going to ask him to do everything. Although, in a way, the Celtics, they had to do it a little bit by default with Tatum, you know, in that Philly series and stuff. But I feel like there's still some comparisons there, you know? I don't think MPJ would just not be able to handle it. I mean, the dude's confident as hell when he's actually in there. So it's just weird that Michael Malone is so blah on doing that. Is it possible that MPJ's injury stuff is still there? Potentially. I mean, I haven't seen many reports about it, although I think he had some sort of injury thing at some point this year. Maybe Malone just doesn't trust him defensively, but again, I would like to believe MPJ could survive defensively for this team. Is there question about Porter's character? I don't really think so. I mean, he's said all the right things. If you go look up interviews, the guy hasn't stirred up really anything. If anything, the dude who's had some quotes here and there is Mike Malone. I mean, he said this team was soft recently, which is not an insane thing for a coach to say, but still, it's something. And then he's had, moments of like, he doesn't want to hear about Michael Porter Jr. anymore, and it's not about MPJ, it's about the whole team and stuff. And, to be fair, he's probably hearing about it like every single day from reporters and stuff, so it can probably get a little annoying. Kind of reminds me, not on the same level, the other one was a bigger deal, but like when Ty Lue was constantly asked about LeBron's minutes. So, coaches are human too, and we should give them a little bit of a break. But clearly he's thinking about it, and clearly he's aware of everybody else talking about it and stuff, so what gives? I don't know. We can only speculate because nothing has really come out. I think another interesting thing is, will the Nuggets front office ever intervene here? Because that is something you hear about sometimes where there's coach and owner or GM differences, and it's usually over somebody like Michael Porter Jr., right? The young dude who everybody's excited about, who the coach is maybe not as all in on. Maybe there's a chance everybody is on the same page and the real expectation is that next season is when Porter will really be playing. And I guess that would kind of be a natural progression. I mean, if we're looking at guy who doesn't play in his first year, kind of plays in his second year, and then really plays in his third, I mean, okay. Even then, we've seen Blake Griffin come back in his second season and be really good. We saw Zion, after missing a whole bunch of time with the knee, he's been killing it since he showed up, so I don't know. I mean, every injury is different, of course, but clearly other teams have not been as conservative with their injured young star. But then again, there's also the Embiid way of going about it, which is to be extremely conservative with him. And it seems that the Nuggets are kind of doing not that, but I guess whatever would be right below that. The other interesting thing to think about is that we could be seeing Porter finally playing in his third year. At that point, he would only be a year away from restricted free agency. Would that be enough time for him to really prove how good he is? I mean, I'm assuming the Nuggets would match basically anything for the dude, but what if somebody offered him a max and he didn't have enough time to really get comfortable with being awesome in the NBA? And would the Nuggets be like, well, we'll accept it, but we don't love it? And I don't know, that could be a thing, but that's still a decent ways away. But as far as the right now is concerned, we're kind of still waiting. We've seen pop-ups this year, and he's looked like a guy who at one time was the number one dude in the country. So, yeah, I mean, at this point, do I think he's going to play a lot of minutes in the playoffs? No. I mean, if it was going to happen, then I think the minutes would reflect that by now. I think we'll definitely see him in the postseason. But as for how many minutes, I don't really know.